Hello and welcome to Versus. Today on Versus we have two open world adventure games with lots to do and little story, and those two games are Mad Max versus Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Two games that came out this year, both games set in open world, one of them being Victorian England and the other one being actually no, not Victorian England, in industrial era England, and one of them being in the apocalyptic wastelands of San Francisco or something like that, California. So I'm just gonna dive right in because the first category is story. Mad Max's story is a little basic. It's a little rough around the edges. You're not really sure what's going on half the time because it really moves fast, and in order to get to the different story missions, you have to upgrade your vehicle, and sometimes it takes a while to get back to the main story, and then you kind of lose track of where the story is. But the gist of it is, Mad Max goes up against Scrotus, which is the leader of the people, these raiders who are in the California area. I know Scrotus is a pretty pretty dumb name, Scrotus. I think we all know which word we are all thinking of when we hear that name. Um, so he dukes it out with Scrotus in the first scene of the game, and then he kills Scrotus apparently, and then he gets just thrown into the wasteland, and that's where you start. You start and you start the run around. You find a hunchback who is a mechanic, apparently very gifted. Believes that the some sort of gods have bestowed on him the gift of being this great mechanic, and he is, I guess, you could say. And that's Chumbucket, and you help him defeat the raiders in your area. You kind of learn how the game is, and then you realize that Scrotus's horde is still very strong, and the whole point of the game is just to rid the raiders and Scrotus's army out of the wasteland, and that's pretty much it. A few things happen. You meet a lot of colorful characters. Um, all in all, the story's not too bad, but it's not like really engaging. It's not, it doesn't make me really want to play the story, because half the time in the game you're just kind of driving around finding things and doing side missions, and the main story really gets lost somewhere in between. As for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, um, coming from a long line of Assassin's Creed games, and I've played all of them, this one has a very well written script, very well written story. It's based in industrial England, which is it's a very cool. You're in London. Of course, you can climb to the top of Big Ben and blah blah blah. Basis of the story is the Templar leader there, because England is the stronghold for the Templars, because England used to be the biggest power in the world, and I think that's where they based the Templars on. The big wig Templar, has an iron fist over England, and his range is affecting the entire world. And you start off with the two twins. You have Jacob and Evie, and they don't listen to their master or their trainer, I guess I could say, and they run off to England, and they go to London, which is the stronghold, and they help out the guy who's there, who's kind of undercover, kind of keeping an eye on things, and you try to help him to rid the London of the Templars, and the Templars enlist the help of a gang. I forget what the gang's called. And so Jacob forms a gang called the Rooks, and you can actually, get the Rooks to join you for fights and stuff like that. You find tons and tons of different side missions to do. A lot of them aren't really engaging. A lot of them are just like, follow this guy, or walk around here, or save these children. But the main story, like I said, the main story is very good. It is a little fast. There's only 8 sequences in this game compared to the 12 to 15 that were in the other ones. So it is a little bit less, but I mean the story and the characters are very well developed. It's not just throwing enemies at you who are faceless, and you really don't get a background behind them. Now you're actually getting a background behind them. You actually learn you learn how these people are, and then it really feels satisfying to stick them in the end. So in the story realm of things, I definitely think Assassin's Creed Syndicate has a better story, even though Mad Max is the story's there, but like I said, it gets lost in the folds of the things you have to do to get to the main story. Category number two. Category number two is driving. And this is a big point of both games because in the Assassin's Creed Syndicate, you're driving stagecoaches, and in Mad Max, you're driving cars. And you'd think that both those things would be completely different. But unfortunately, in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, driving a stagecoach or a wagon feels the same as driving a car in, let's say, Mad Max or Need for Speed. It's very rudimentary. It's very easy. There's really no. You can still ram people off the roads, and your wagon or stagecoach can get tons of damage without actually crumpling and falling apart, while other people's stuff just breaks to pieces. And I feel like they really could have done a little bit more with the stage coaches and stuff like that. The driving could have been so much better because you're actually using horses. So if something happens to your horse, I feel like your stagecoach just stop, flip over like you can with the other people's. But I mean, the only thing that really feels like you're in a stagecoach is when you're reversing, and that's tough to do. So in the driving realm, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is really lacking. It feels just like any other game that has driving physics to it. Driving for Mad Max, definitely the focal point of the game. They really, really made the driving key, and you can tell. And the upgrades you can do to your car, they help with different terrain. They help with fighting off enemies, of course. You can do that stuff in the stagecoaches as well in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really change the way the stagecoaches look. It just makes them stronger and able to do more damage. Whereas Mad Max, you're actually earning this stuff. You're compiling scrap, which is the currency in the game, and you're building it onto your car, and you're making your car better and tougher and stronger. And so when you go into the next area, I mean, you can feel like a total badass on some occasions, and on other occasions you feel like a total wimp because you're getting destroyed right away, and you know that you need to go back and amp up your car more and more and more until you can get to those areas. Like I said, the driving physics are great. You really feel like you're driving on sand, or you're driving on gravel, or you're driving on a road, and it all varies. It all feels different, especially when you're trying to take down enemies. The terrain really slopes and edges, and it's really cool. I do enjoy it. So that's why Mad Max gets a point for driving. Category number three. Category number three is gameplay, and I'm kind of generalizing this one across the board here. Gameplay can go from mechanics to how it works to how it feels. So in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the gameplay it's pretty tight. They definitely improved upon since Unity, which was a crap fest to me, and Syndicate's free running is better, but it is definitely not. How would you say? It's definitely not on par with the other games that were in the series before this. And up until Assassin's Creed 3, the free running was pretty shaky. And then Assassin's Creed 3 and 4 and Rogue came out, and it got better, way better. And then Assassin's Creed Unity came out, and they went back. And then now Syndicate's here. It's better, but it's not the best. You press X to free run up, you press O to free run down, but there's no way to direct where you're going. So you'll be running along some shackles on a building that kind of loop around the building, and you press left to go left along with the building, and you'll start climbing up the building. So there's times when it can be really, really frustrating, and it kind of drives you insane when you're trying to follow someone and they start getting away because you're too far behind. It can be a pain in the butt. As for like fighting in the game, it just feels like a same old story. You press X to punch, triangle to block, O to parry, and triangle to break a defense, and maybe X is the break defense. I forget. And there's a quick shot button, which I think that's triangle. I haven't played it in a while. A lot of games have come out since then, since October. It seems Wow, it seems like a long time ago, but really, it was only the end of October the game came out. So the fighting very basic, very rudimentary. I don't know why I keep saying that, but it's just it's the same as all the other ones. And the free running, like I said, it's better, but it's not as good as it could be. And they even included a grappling hook in this game, which helps you go up buildings really, really fast. Kind of takes away from the parkour, but it's a very good, very strong device to use. Um, and other than that, the gameplay, it just has the same kind of stuff as all the other Assassin's Creeds. Mad Max, in terms of gameplay, like I said, it's all driving based. There are plenty of things to do on foot, but those are the points of the game that really struggle, and they really get boring because a lot of the things you do on foot just feel like the same old story. You're going and collecting scrap, you're blowing up oil tanks and killing people. The fighting in the game is very, very, very simple, just like Assassin's Creed. Square is the punch, hold it down to do a super punch. Triangle is the block, and X is the break. Their cover, and you press O or R1 to do a quick fire of your shotgun. It's very, very, very simple, very, 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 very basic. And that's and the on foot stuff is where this game really starts to lack, and unfortunately, you do a lot of it. Even though I still like the game, because the driving's really good, but you just keep getting the same thing over and over and over again. And if I was to choose between, doing this thing on foot with Mad Max and kind of getting bored, or getting pissed off at the free running, I mean, I'd probably rather go with Assassin's Creed on the gameplay aspect of things, because there is a better system in there that keeps you interested, keeps you going. So that's why Assassin's Creed gets a point there in gameplay. Next is graphics. Usually I try to keep graphics on a low key because a lot of games try to glorify their graphics and they lose the gameplay. Luckily with these two games, the graphics are on par and the gameplay is still there. So at least they equal out. As for the graphics in Assassin's Creed, the game looks nice. It looks good. Of course, the gameplay looks different from cutscenes. The cutscenes look a lot better than the actual gameplay. The animations, the characters when they die, they sometimes they don't match up to where you stab them or something like that. As for the places you see and stuff you see, it all looks nice. The shading's very well. The shadows follow you. All in all, London looks great. Sometimes there are spots where you get that lag because the FPS goes down, and that can get annoying, especially when you're fighting a lot of people. And I still do get some of those problems where you reach like an invisible wall and you start climbing it on accident. Sometimes I'll get to that point in the game where your feet don't actually touch the ground while you're running. It kind of gets a little annoying. I know it's supposed to be like, oh, you're in the Animus and it's glitches will happen, but in a game like this that you've had so long to work on, I feel like those things should be ironed out. As for Mad Max's graphics, very good graphics. Definitely looks great for the game. The tire tracks happen behind your vehicle, and footprints happen, and fire looks great. Explosions look really, really good in this game. Facial animations, everything like that, all look great. Cutscenes look exactly the same as the actual gameplay that you're playing on, so there's no difference there. And really, it has a whole weather pattern in the game. It has sandstorms that come up that look great. So, all in all, I'd say that Mad Max really wins in the graphics department just because there's more in-depth stuff, and I rarely find anything that kind of glitches out. Number 5 is probably the biggest one for these games, and that's open world experience. So let's start with Assassin's Creed. Open world in Assassin's Creed is just like Unity, except there's a giant river running through the middle of the city. Other than that, there's plenty of things to collect and find throughout the game. Unfortunately, you can find maps that will put it on your map for you, and then it just kind of turns into, okay, search and find, time wasting things. You just waste your time going from place to place and collecting one thing and then running out and collecting the next thing. Which it does get really boring and really annoying really fast. Plus, you don't really get anything special for finding the stuff. Excuse me, for finding the stuff. Um, so, I mean, and there are a few things you have to find. One of the things which are pressed flowers, you can find them by running past them or driving past them, so you can come back later and get them. The other thing you have to find is music boxes, and you have to listen for the music, and then you can find them from there, which is that's just really annoying to me. I liked it better when you had to go down into the undergrounds and find the special keys, and then you could unlock the special armor for getting all the keys. But now it's like, okay, find it. And like I said, it really just feels like time wasting things. And a lot of the objectives that you have to do, get to clear out Templars out of areas, they're all the same. They all feel the same. They all work kind of the same. You only have about 3 different ones, and then it just, it gets very boring very easily. As for Mad Max, the open world experience, Assassin's Creed Unity has a very small map. I just want to say, it definitely does not compare to the other ones. And going back to a little bit of the gameplay, having a smaller map, you think they would bring back the wanted system, and you think they would make it so you kill a police officer, you get more wanted. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. And if you want to learn more about that, on my channel, personal channel, on Josh's opinion, I have my Assassin's Creed Syndicate review there that you can kind of go over and see what I think of the game, and I'll go over that stuff in that one. So hopefully Robert will put the link down below. I'll ask him to. So anyways, back to the open world for Mad Max. It's a very big map, very varying map. You go from starting on the bottom of the ocean sea. You can drive through ships and through coral reefs, or not coral reefs, but rock formations that were underwater. And then you drive up onto land, and you got more dusty stuff. It kind of looks a little bit more like there was something there. And if you go up even farther, you have cities and stuff like that. And then if you go up even farther, you have a junkyard. And if you go off to the right of the map, there's a giant, vast wasteland. And the point being here is the map is huge, it's varying, it's different in every location you go to, looks a little different, feels a little different. Things get harder as you go to different areas. The entire wasteland area that's just nothing for miles, there are extremely valuable things in there, but if you get lost in there or you run out of gas, you're dead. And it's just great how they incorporated that stuff into it. So now you have to walk all the way back, or now you have to, get gas, and the amount of things to find, it is just another one of those, okay, go out and get it, and you can upgrade this, and go out and get it, go back that. But at least there's things to do that are kind of different within each area. And finding things can get a very tedious, especially when you start getting to the end of it, where it's like you have to find these 3 parts to make this. So you go out and get the 3 parts, and it just takes a while because you have to drive everywhere. And yes, you can get fast travel spots, and yes, you can go up on towers and see the whole area and get and see where enemy strongholds are that you can go to. But it's still very tedious to drive all the way out there and then drive all the way back, or fast travel all the way back. And the loading times for both games are pretty atrocious. Mad Max is a little bit better because the map has a little bit less. But since Assassin's Creed has so many NPCs and so many buildings and so many, it takes at least 4 minutes on the initial startup, 3 minutes, maybe even more, when you're going and restarting or loading the map again. So all in all, for open world experience, I definitely give Mad Max the point here, because Assassin's Creed is all the same. You got buildings and buildings, and then a river, and then buildings and buildings. In Mad Max, you have you start out on the bottom of the ocean, and you go up to a junkyard, and it has everything in between. So that's why Mad Max gets a point for open world experience. Category number 6. Category number 6 is weapons. And I know both games have very different weapons, but which weapons are more effective for the game you're playing? Assassin's Creed Unity has a good amount of weapons. I wouldn't say it's vast. It's a very good amount. You have the cane that turns into a sword. You have the brass knuckles, which are the two new ones. You have a short sword for up close and personal things. And then I know there's like one more weapon that I'm forgetting. Actually, no, that's it. There's three hand weapons that you can use. Of course, you still have your assassin's blades. You have about 6 or 7 pistols you can get. You have throwing knives. You have the hallucination darts, which is just like the berserk stuff from the other games. You have let's see. You have the smoke screen, of course, and you have you have I mean, it's a good amount of things. I know I'm probably forgetting a few things because I haven't played the game in so long. But you have a good amount of things for the game you're playing. I mean, they took out the whole bomb crafting system from the Revelations game and the Assassin's Creed 4 and 3, which is it does take away a lot because I liked kind of making my own bombs and seeing what they would do. They took out a lot of the weapons you used to be able to get, like heavy weapons and light weapons and the medium weapons. They took most of those out, so now you can't get a spear or an axe or anything like that. A lot of the pistols are the same, they just have higher power, just like with the canes and the swords, they're better, and you can unlock them as you gain levels. So really, all in all, I mean, Assassin's Creed doesn't have too many weapons. They are effective for what they are, but I just can't see, really going berserk over the weapons because they're very simple. There's not many of them. And really, it's kind of sad that they took out all the different things you could possibly have from the last few games. As for Mad Max, upgrading your car, you get plenty of weapons for that. You can put spikes on your car to get people to stop boarding you, or when they do board you, they could just get stabbed and fall off. You have the Thunderpoon, which is a projectile rocket. You have a Flame Sprayer, which shoots flames at the side of your car. Uses up a lot more gas, but it's very effective against massive amounts of enemies who get in close. You have the Harpoon Gun, which you can latch onto things and rip things off and boost into them. You have the Boost, which can be upgraded to do plenty of speed. Also gives you good ramming speed. You can upgrade your bumpers so you get more ram. There's a sniper rifle in the game, which you can do long range stuff, but you have to be stopped. There's a shotgun that you can upgrade. Of course, you can upgrade your armor and stuff like that. Upgrade all your facial stuff. Let's see. There are weapons you can pick up. Of course, they get damaged over time and break. And of course, you have the biggest thing in the game, which is gasoline. You can pick up gas cans, light them on fire, throw them, they explode, or you can shoot them in mid-air. It's a very good selection of weapons and things that you can do to upgrade. And really, though, it's kind of like the same as Assassin's Creed. Sure, there's a lot of stuff, but most of it's just, you upgrade and it gets better. But at least the weapons in Mad Max are more varied. They do different things other than just, whacking someone with a stick. So that's why Mad Max gets the point in weapons. So where we stand, Assassin's Creed Syndicate has 2 points, and Mad Max has 1, 2, 3, 4. So Mad Max is our victor. I will go over category number 7, which is overall satisfaction. And really, I am a little bit disappointed with Assassin's Creed Syndicate with how the game was handled. It's a very small map. They took out the wanted system. They took out a lot of weapons. Like I said, I'll get Robert to post the link in the description for that Assassin's Creed review, so you can kind of get the gist of where I'm coming from. And the only thing that really shines in my eyes is the story in Assassin's Creed, and that's been gone for the past 3 or 4. I think Assassin's Creed 3 was the last story that I really was into. So I'm glad that that's back. But if you're missing out on the free roam and the size of the map and all those things that you love and learned about Assassin's Creed, it kind of dwindles in my eyes. I mean, as for Mad Max, I know it's coming off of a one-shot here. There's no games passed. But in the game, you have a massive area to explore. You got plenty of upgrades you can do, plenty of characters to meet. Even though the story is very lacking, and a lot of the side missions are just rudimentary and boring, and a lot of the picking and going through the wasteland can be very tedious and can get borderline boring. The game is still, it's a solid game. And I know a lot of people have been busting its balls because of how long it takes to do things, but everyone was asking for a more realistic game, and this one can get pretty close to it. You you break things, it takes a little bit longer to break things. You beating people up and beating them to death takes longer than most games. And if I was to compare it to another game, I would say it's kind of comparable to the Sleeping Dogs, with all the fighting style. So all in all, I am satisfied with Mad Max. I'm not completely satisfied, but I'm more satisfied than Assassin's Creed. And so that's why Mad Max would have gotten the point in overall satisfaction. So, all in all, what have we learned today? We've learned that even though a story can be good, if the free roam and the parkour and the graphics and the weapons and all that are stripped away, you just don't get as good of experience as you would have had if it was an older Assassin's Creed. And Mad Max, I mean, sure, the story is really not there. I mean, it is there. It's not as compelling as I wish it would have been. I find myself not even trying to get the objectives. I just want to go around and free everyone from the oppression of Scrotus. So, if you liked this video, give it a like. If you don't agree with me, you can type out all your nasty thoughts in the comments section. If you enjoy listening to my voice, I am Jarsh's Opinion on my regular channel. I have video game reviews on there, which is my newest thing. I have YouTube haikus, which made my channel a little bit, at least, famous. I also have 3-second reviews on there, which have dwindled down, but I'm still uploading them every once in a while. And I also do other things as well. So if you want to, you can come check me out. That was Jarsh's Opinion. Here on the Rant channel, we have this series, Versus, which is what I do, pitting two games against each other. Robert, who's the other person I do this channel with, does 5-minute reviews. He tries and puts all the information you can into a short, concise 5-minute review, and it's very good. And then we also have our main podcast, where we just talk and talk and talk, and that's about it. So like I said, if you like this video, give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. And I will compare you to Batman Arkham Origins.